This here is my brand new IceRiver KS0 Ultra, and well, it's bricked. What's going on, miners, and welcome back to the channel. Well, as I said, right here is my IceRiver KS0 Ultra. See if the camera focuses for us. There she is. And well, it's bricked. I actually only ran it for a few days on stock, and well, it no longer works. And quick story behind it. We'll jump into it and jump into all the details. The short form is that we did a live stream several weeks back. We downloaded the TSWIFT firmware early on, like one of the early first versions of it, and we applied it to our miner here. And well, I actually should take a step back. In the live stream, we only got as far as running the initialize file that you do with the overclock, and it got bricked. And people use the word bricked in several different ways. To me, when the miner is no longer accessible, can't access the web GUI, can't log into it, I could find it on my network, but can't do anything with it, I consider this unit bricked. Everyone's definition is a little bit different. Now, when the overclocking firmware first came out, there were several people out there that ran into the same issue that I did. Either it bricked or disabled at a variety of different times, and the team over at TSWIFT did offer an option for 200 Kaspa to unbrick or to fix these miners back to factory default. But I don't want to pay. Why should I have to pay for it, you know? So this unit will continue to be a brick as an example of the risks of overclocking. Could that happen to you? Maybe. Now, thankfully, in the meantime, since this issue occurred, and my issue was not the only isolated issue, there were several other people out there that reached out to me after seeing my 2 live streams and reported very similar situations. It might not be as publicly well known, and a lot of those people did pay the 200 Kaspa to have theirs fixed, but I don't know. I just don't feel it's right to have to pay to have something fixed that I didn't break. Now, some of you might go, you did something wrong during the overclocking process. I have 50 of these and I didn't have any issues. And I would say, you're awesome. However, I did 2 live streams on that. I'll put it directly down below and showed everything I did. I actually do it along with the live stream, and you can see that I didn't really do anything wrong. So if you guys are interested in overclocking your KS0 Ultra, I want to make sure that you're aware of the problems or the risks that could occur. And is it even worth it? We're going to talk about it in a minute regarding the price and the cost of really truly overclocking your KS0 Ultra. And I want this to be 100% a disclaimer. Now, the team over at TSWIFT has come out with an update that allows you to utilize the reset buttons on these and the factory reset features on these since the problems that I had. So there are at least options now that if it does get screwed up, you could at least reset it back. But in the first iteration of the TSWIFT overclocking firmware for the KS0 Ultra, if you ran into this problem, the only way to fix this was to pay 200 Kaspa and then have someone from God knows where access your computer, your network, your home setup, and log into that with secret credentials and fix it. So please make sure that you guys are careful. If you're going to try to overclock it, please make sure you have the latest version so you can utilize that button, because there's a button actually right here on the front that does let you reset it, but that doesn't work in the first iteration of the KS0 Ultra firmware for the TSWIFT firmware. Now, there's been another individual that came out with their KS0 Ultra firmware, PBFarmer, which is very well known. They did not mess around with some of the defaults, so you can at any time factory reset your unit if it starts to act up, which is great and a great feature to have. So please be careful and please overclock these at your own risk, but you could end up like me where it's bricked. And from a security perspective, I don't want anybody logging into my network and accessing my computer and my files. I mean, who knows? You don't know who to trust. And in today's world, with crypto being stolen so easily, there is no way in hell I'm going to allow that. I'm not going to take that risk. So unfortunately, my KS0 Ultra is going to sit as a paperweight and a reminder of the risks of overclocking. Now, if you do decide to overclock, let's go through everything that you kind of have to do regarding purchase-wise, because nowadays, with the current price of the KS0 Ultra, I don't even think it's worth it to overclock. Today's video is sponsored by the team over at ASICmarketplace.com. With crypto mining hardware prices dropping, it's critical to find an online store you can trust with your ASIC purchases. The team at ASICmarketplace.com has you covered with some of the most competitive pricing on the market. No matter what brand you're looking for, ASIC Marketplace has it. To name just a few: Bitmain, Goldshell, WhatsMiner, IB-Link, iPolo, JazzMiner, and many more. There are no surprises with ASIC Marketplace. The price listed on their website includes shipping. Imagine that. Finally, ASIC Marketplace takes the buying experience to the next level by accepting cryptocurrency as payment directly on their store. Go check out ASIC Marketplace today via the link in this video's description down below, as well as save $110 at checkout with discount code TheHobbyistMiner. So let's jump over here to this other screen that I do have up and available. And so right now, the KS0 Ultras have an all-time low price of $199. Keep that price in mind as we go through all of the requirements to get more. Now, a lot of you guys are tinkerers. A lot of you guys are home hobbyists who always want to push things. I mean, especially if we're coming from GPU mining, we always want to push things to the limit, right? That's just like in our nature. So we want to take a unit that does 400 gigahash, and if there's a chance it can do over 500 or 600, we're totally interested. But let's look at everything. So for the TSWIFT firmware and for even probably the PBFarmer firmware, you need a lot of additional items to get by. So if we take a look, first off, you could go with a 230 watt power supply off of Amazon, because as you imagine, it's no longer going to use 100 watts when you're overclocking it, because that's pretty much what we're doing. We're adding more wattage or voltage to the miner to get more out of it. So there is a 230 watt power supply, but remember, your watts, your hash rate is going to be limited based off of how many watts you can throw at it. So for 230 watts, you can get to like a mid-tier overclock, get you about $45.99. And if you really want to push it, you want to maximize the hash rate, you can go with a 330 watt, this is actually the one that I bought. But this goes for $139. So right now we're $139 in if we want to push this to the max. Keep in mind this entire time, a brand new one is $199. Now, the next thing that you're going to need is some type of shroud system, because the cooling that comes with these is not adequate to overclock them. Now, Mad Electron makes these and it has these available. They're absolutely awesome. I have used these shrouds in some capacity in the past. I highly recommend them, but you're going to need to either download this. You can get this off of Thingiverse and you can print it yourself, or you can find one out there from someone else in the interwebs. So there's additional costs there, most likely if you're going to 3D print it or buy it from somewhere. Moving on from there, you need a different cooling fan. You need to put a cooling fan on one side of it. And here's another $30 for the AC Infinity fan. I've used this one before. It works really, really well. It has a high CFM here, 110 CFM, which is absolutely awesome. But we've already gone from $140. Now we're adding another $30 to it. So now we're at $170. In addition to that, you have to buy different copper heat sinks. Now, these are cheap. They're $7. So let's say by that, we're all in for 180. We're just rounding right now. You also need to get this thermal glue. So now we're at 190. And we also need to purchase thermal paste to put on this. So now we're at $200 total. So the question comes up, or you can also go to this level. Like this is an entire housing to cool these units because they get so incredibly hot. So this one's $100 all by itself, but you still need a lot of the other stuff. You still need the fans, you still need the thermal paste, the heat sinks, and everything. So it really comes back to, do you spend all this time, all this money, when you could just buy another one? Now, this wasn't the case when the KS0 Ultra first came out. When it first came out, it was significantly more. And as time has gone on, the price has dropped. So now we're down to $199. So if you're watching this after, I'd say the second week in August, this is probably going to apply more than previously. But For $199, honestly, to overclock it and the risk that I ran into, or all the hardware cost and items you need and your time and your labor, I would personally say don't bother, just buy another one. Now, taking a look here at the profitability of this unit, it has really dropped. If we take a look at the KS0 here, you actually see all of them. The KS0 Ultra is only bringing in at 10 cents kilowatt hour. It's only bringing in like 41 cents a day in Kaspa. Now, Kaspa mining right now is abysmal. We're on this massive slump. Do I think we're going to recover? 100%. Absolutely believe that we're going to recover from this. And I think it's going to come sooner than later. So is it worth it to get one of these? For 100 watts? Absolutely. It's like leaving on a light bulb and you're just DCAing into Kaspa a little bit each day. Now, moving on, final thoughts. I'll say, I don't recommend overclocking your KS0 Ultra. Just buy another one. That's your Cliff Notes. Moving on from there, let's talk about this guy, because I think we're going to be in this exact same boat within the next month. The IceRiver AL0. Right now it's coming in at $7.99. Now I do have a discount code for this on IceRiver. I'll talk about that in just a minute if you're interested to save yourself a few bucks. But this Alephium miner, pretty impressive. But is Alephium going to be Kaspa? Are we going to see the exact same trajectory that we saw with Kaspa? Maybe. Who knows? Now, if we look at profitability on this unit here at 10 cents, right now it's still bringing in $8.32 a day. And the nice thing about these units is they only use 100 watts. So your electric rate is not a massive factor. It's only using 24 cents a day in electric right now at 10 cents. And I mean, we can bump this up to 30 and it goes up to 72 cents a day. And it doesn't cut into your profitability that much. So these are fantastic home miners. They're fantastic for people just getting into mining, and they have a nice profitability available to them. But you need to be careful, because if we look at the network hash rate right now of Alephium, it has skyrocketed. And we've had a lot of miners come out, like the Gold Shell AL Box and the AL2. We now have these AL0s coming out. And in addition to that, we also have Bitmain coming out with their fleet of miners here, which is the AL1. Now, the AL1 just destroys everything. A lot of people speculate right now that the AL1s are currently online and they're getting pre-mined by Bitmain, which this is nothing new. When you buy from Bitmain, your unit has been, quote, tested for months on end, and everybody believes that. And we do believe that the AL0s have come online, or AL1s have come online from Bitmain, and they're going to be shipped here very, very soon within the next few weeks. So this nice, cozy $8.32 for the AL0 is definitely not going to be there in a month or 2 months or 3 months from now, let alone a year from now. So if you're like one of these individuals coming into mining, coming from the traditional financial field, and you're looking for like, I want something that's going to be stable, that I know I'm going to make this profit every day for the next 365 days, Alephium mining is definitely not the way to go. Moving on from there, though, we do need to keep in mind that the AL0 right now is $799. So could the price of this go down in a month? Absolutely. Could it go down in 2 months? You bet. The KS0 Ultra is a fine example of that, now all the way down to $199. I don't even know how much lower they can go with this unit. And the reason it's dropped so much is there's so many in circulation, there's so many Kaspa miners coming out, and there's a lot of units out there to affect the network hash rate, as well as the price of Kaspa has come down. Now, something that comes into mind for me is we've all been talking about the AL0, which is like on the left side of the spectrum. And then we've talked about the AL1, which is the Bitmain on the other side of the spectrum. But we have not heard from IceRiver, but I've heard some rumors, some talks that IceRiver will be coming out with their full-size ASICs. So very similar to the KS5L or the KS5M for Kaspa, we're going to see a very similar models, different naming convention. Maybe it's the AL5L or the AL5M for Alephium. So before we go rushing to one extreme versus the other with Alephium, we should keep in mind there may be something in the middle ground with the IceRiver units. If you guys do decide that you want to get your hands on one of these AL0s early on, here's some metrics as of today, August 18th. Watching this probably several days after this, But as of right now, on a 10-cent kilowatt hour, you're making about $7.88 when I put together this graphic for you guys. Realistically, the ROI is 101 days, but that's based off of the network hash rate today on the 18th of August, not weeks later when all these additional Alephium miners have come online. And I want to be entirely open and honest with you guys that I don't expect this AL0 to continue making $7.88 a day. But if you are still interested in getting your hands on one, you want to slowly DCA into Alephium every day, as much or as little as that is, I do have a discount code for hobbyists that will get you a discount at checkout for your AL0. All right, guys, so hopefully you at least have reconsidered overclocking your KS0 Ultras and the risk that could happen. Now, I have plenty of miners that do have the TSWIFT overclocking software and firmware on them, and they've run great, especially some of my early units out there like my KS2. Just want to make sure that you guys are careful and keeping this in mind of the risk of overclocking your units, and also taking in mind the risk of buying an AL0. If you are going to get one, there's definitely value in getting one earlier than later. Well, that's going to wrap things up for today. Love to get some feedback from you guys in the comments. If you guys decided to overclock your KS0 Ultra, how did it go for you? And what hash rate did you actually reach? All right, guys, take care. Listen up, miners. I gotta ask, what mining pool do you have your ASICs on? Now, the bigger question, why? Reliability, security, profitability, and uptime are must-haves for serious crypto miners. All reasons why I've been running my new Bitcoin, Kaspa, and Script miners on ViaBTC.com. ViaBTC.com has a unique, one-of-a-kind mining mechanism called Smart Mining, which unlocks higher returns for Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash miners. In addition, what sets ViaBTC.com apart is their hourly payouts, auto withdrawal, and conversion system, which I gotta say is super convenient. Go check out ViaBTC.com today via the link in today's video description and tell them the Hobbyist Miner sent you.